All right, well, I guess I'll get started. This is a bit of a free-form thing. It's not very technical, actually not technical at all. I figure most of us kind of have that nailed. And if you want something technical, you just watch WWDC videos anyway. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about kind of what, for lack of a better term, I call the hustle, which is more or less, oops, I hit the wrong button, about being indie and what it entails and what kind of happens to you when you do go indie and decide to work for yourself. So in my case, I've been working specifically as an indie since April of '09. I'm doing iOS development. Of course, it was called iPhone development at the time. I've been doing mostly training and consulting. I started off thinking I was going to be a product company and make games, just like all of us do, and was drawn very quickly into the consulting and contracting world. And I also do developer training too. So over 3 years, my business has shifted multiple times in multiple directions, and I've made numerous mistakes, hopefully some of which I'll be able to help you not make, or maybe you'll notice you're making mistakes, the same ones I made, I don't know. It could be completely useless, but I find when I talk to other people who do similar things to what I do, I get a lot of benefit. And I've already done a bunch of that this week. So hopefully you'll get a little more out of what it's like to do that. Are all of you pretty much, or some of you, living as a quote indie kind of lifestyle where you're working on your own, have your own company? Okay, there's a couple of you. Okay, so the rest of you maybe you want to be, or you're just sitting here working, I don't know. So first of all, when I started my company, I thought I had a pretty clear vision of what I wanted it to be, and discovered that what I thought my business should be wasn't going to be as lucrative as I was hoping, and so I had to make shifts. But is that the right slide? I guess you can't see the slide, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, okay, good. So, the first question I asked myself when I started my business, and I've had to ask it numerous times since then, is what am I building? Right? That's not going to work. So about a few months ago, I saw a blog post from Seth Godin, who has a very interesting blog and writes a lot of interesting books about, kind of internet marketing and things like that. The books are all very similar, but they get the point across. They're short. But his blog is really interesting. He posts some interesting anecdotes, has interesting kind of takes on stuff from more of a marketing perspective. But he had a really short blog post recently, I think sometime earlier this year, where he was talking about running your own business, right? Are you deciding what you're building? Are you building a job, or are you building a business? So it was a really short post, and it just kind of made me think. And I've talked to other entrepreneurs since then, and then kind of the gist of it is, in either case, this can work, but you can't do both of them at the same time. You have to pick one. And so what does it mean? What does it mean to be creating a job over creating a business? Well, most people in kind of professional situations as we are as professionals, whether you're a developer, whether you're a marketer, or you provide some kind of professional service, striking out on your own is a very kind of tempting thing, especially if you're good at what you do, because you can find work. But the question is how much do you want this to just be a job for you? Are you picking up contracts here and there just to basically have work to do, have a job, right? So you don't have a boss per se, but you have multiple bosses who are your clients. You just kind of shifted that boss role onto your clients. So in that case, you're just basically doing your coding all day, right? You're coding 80% of the time, 85% of the time. The rest of the time you're doing those necessary things you have to do when running a business, which we'll get back to later. But your business is not growing to more than just you. It's just it's more of a vehicle for you to be able to do the work you like to do. Perfectly acceptable thing, but very, very different from building a business. When you're building a business, the goal is not for you to have a job doing what you love to do. The goal is, well, you still will be doing what you love to do, don't get me wrong. But the goal is not for you to have more coding work. The goal is for you to build a business that actually transcends yourself, transcends what you do. And in that case, instead of working, to take a quote from another really good book called The E-Myth that I read a long time ago, and is also one of those less dense books. I can't really show you the link, so if you want to, I'll give you the stuff later since you really can't see it. But there's a distinct difference between working, the results from working in your business to working on your business. Right? If you spend too much time working in your business, you're not working on your business, that is building yourself a job. Right? You are a programmer, and you have an employer, and that employer is whoever is your client paying the bills, even though it's not really written that way. And when you're working on the business, the product you're building, the work you're doing is actually building an entity that might happen to produce code or produce apps or produce something on the other side. But as the person creating and working on that business, you're not actually doing the production work. That's not your job. Your job is to build the business, create the business, and design the business around something. Now, it doesn't mean you never code, but the difference is instead of probably coding 80+% of the time when you're building yourself a job, that basically flips on its head, and you end up, being lucky if you can code 20% of the time. Now, this doesn't necessarily, this is kind of a broad generalization. If you're building a product business, especially in the early days, you're probably going to be building your product and spending, a fair amount of time coding. But the more you get to actually shipping the product, the closer you get to having to deal with selling to other people, and whether it's businesses or whether it's consumers in the App Store or whatever you're selling, at some point you're going to have to back off and trust others, delegate to others, and allow them to code, and you have to build the business, because there will be other people depending on you if you're building a business. So those are two very different things, right? If you decide that you're going to build a business, then you're basically telling yourself that, sometime in the next, couple years, however long my business plan is, I'm going to be transitioning myself from being a developer to being an entrepreneur or a business owner. You'll be much less of a developer. Not less of a developer in that you're worse, but less in that you won't be doing much development work at all. So that's a difficult decision to make, and that's why you need to, you reevaluate as you move on. But when you're first starting, especially, you need to make the decisions of what's important to you, right? So there are two different sides to look at when you're thinking about what's important. The first is kind of what I call the grand vision, and this is a very, very personal thing, right? The grand vision, at least to me, what I call the grand vision, is deciding, what do you want to get out of this business? What's important to you as a person, right? Ignore the business itself. Ignore what you think it's going to be, what it's going to sell, all those kinds of things. And what's important to you? Do you want to build amazing things? Is that the most important thing to you? Is it important that you have time to be around your family? More time to be around your family? Is it important to you that you don't have a boss? Is it important to you that you save the world? Is it important to you that you save the lemurs? What is important? Like what really drives you as a person? And you have to. It's a difficult thing to do because it requires a lot of introspection, and it requires asking yourself difficult questions you might not want to give yourself the answers to. But it's important because it drives every other decision you make throughout the existence of your business, right? It could also help you make this job or business decision, right? Do I want to build a business or do I want to build a job? If your primary goal is that you spend as much time as you can with your children, then building a business might not be the best step, right? Because you're probably going to, if you're building yourself a job, for example, then you're doing contract work, then you can control, I'm only going to work 20 hours this week because I want to take a vacation and things like that. If you're building a business, it's a little more fluid, and you might not have some of those easy benefits. So since you've kind of got your grand vision in your head, you know that, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or I shouldn't be doing that, because my goal is to do whatever it is. You know, I've got a list of other options and things, but it took me a while to figure this out. And it does shift occasionally, but this is the kind of thing that's not going to shift very often. You know, it's actually a great exercise. Whether or not you end up starting a business, is kind of knowing what you want to get out of life is kind of a useful thing. And it's something to kind of think about on a fairly regular basis. But over the course of the development of your business, whatever it may be, you know, the grand vision kinds of things rarely change. You know, it's rare that you have some kind of epiphany that completely changes your life. It's great when it happens, but it's not going to happen, you know, every couple months, or every 6 months or whatever. Something that's a little more fluid, but is equally important to your business, is the business vision. Now, this is what I mean by this is, you know, what are you selling? What are people paying you money for? Right? That's what your business is. You know, if you're trying to build an agency that, you know, makes apps for Fortune 500 companies, right, and you tell me your business is being a developer, then you either don't know what you're doing or you're lying to me. Your business is selling development services to Fortune 500 companies, right? Your business isn't being a developer. And understanding that and knowing that and internalizing that as you make decisions is really important. You know, so if you're an agency that's building apps for Fortune 500 companies, or if you are training other developers, or if you're building products, you know, for iOS or just for Mac, or iOS and Mac, whatever your business vision is, knowing it and understanding it and probably writing it down is a good idea. I do this. It also helps drive every decision that you make throughout the entire existence of your business. Now, this is the kind of thing, unlike the grand vision, which is kind of your purpose in life, the business vision can and will shift multiple times and fairly quickly. You know, it could last 6 months and you realize, oh, this was a bad idea. I've done that 3 or 4 times. And then you can shift. Or to use we are in the valley, so I can say pivot, and people know what I'm saying. There you go. So you could, whatever you come up with in your business vision will guide every decision you make in a company. So, so I recommend spending some time, some personal time, and if you're working with a partner, this is the kind of thing where you go and sit down and have a real kind of heart-to-heart meeting to make sure you're on the same page on what the business does. It should be very simple. It shouldn't be more than 3 or 4 sentences if you write it down. It should be very kind of 30,000-foot view of what your business is, what you sell. I sell apps, I sell services, whatever it is. We're a nonprofit and we're saving the world. So once you've got all that and you're kind of building your business and making these shifts as things go along, there are some things that are universal to every business. So even if you're a contractor, you know, and you have, you know, you've created an LLC for yourself, but it's just you, and you're paying yourself, it's still a business. And once you become a business, and once you've registered with whatever entity you do in your country or in your state that says you're a business, there are things you have to do that you can't get around. These universal business tasks. You know, it's the business version of death and taxes, and one of them actually is taxes. But these are tasks or jobs that someone has to do. And if you're the only person in the business, guess what? You're the one who has to do it. Those are things like legal, bookkeeping, accounting, things like that that have to be done. You have to keep your books, you have to file your taxes, you have to register your business, you have to create contracts that aren't going to screw yourself or other people. And these are the kind of things that on the surface sound like something, oh, I can handle that, it'll take me a little bit of time to do this. These are the kind of things that really require the eye of a professional, at least in review. You know, you might not say have you know, a CFO that handles all of the company finances, right? That really is your job. But you might do what I do, and I hire a bookkeeper who every month takes everything, all of my expenses and everything, files everything for me, and pays, and you know, and actually you know, pays the taxes for me every month and every quarter, and sends things to the accountant when they need to go there, worth every penny to me, right? Because I don't want to waste my time doing that. because my job is to build my business, not to worry about when to file my taxes. So I delegate that to someone else, someone external to my company. It's the kind of thing you'll eventually hire someone for if you become a large company, but definitely something that I would consider doing. So this can be 2 or 3 entities of who I do business with, who I outsource almost immediately. A lawyer, and then an accountant and or bookkeeper. Sometimes the accountant and bookkeeper can be the same person. In my case, they're 2 different people. But it not only will save you a ton of time in the actual daily work of your business, but it also will save you maybe some headache in the future if you have incorrectly filed your taxes, and then you get audited and you haven't been keeping the receipts in the right place and all these other things. It can be a real nightmare. So I outsource that to someone else, and it's been worth every penny to me. And deciding even how to form your business, you need to hire these people before you even form your business in some cases. Do I create an LLC? Do I do a sole proprietorship? What are the tax benefits and tax negatives for doing certain things? Consult an accountant, consult your lawyer, and do those things beforehand. These are all parts of kind of the expenses of setting up a business. And this even applies if you're a freelancer doing, well, maybe not freelancer, but if you have, you probably should do this anyway if you're a freelancer, if you're doing 1099 work or anything like that. Having an entity like this to protect yourself legally if things go wrong with a contract or with a client is really important. So I'm not going to give you any legal advice whatsoever, because the only legal advice I'm giving you is hire a lawyer. And if you can, find a good one. Get referrals. Find someone that kind of knows what they're talking about when it comes to the App Store. And there aren't a whole lot of them, but there are some out there that really kind of understand our business. They can be very useful, as I've discovered. Having a lawyer who I can call when things kind of blow up contract-wise in my face, which happened to me a few weeks ago, and I've been dealing with for the last month. Having a good lawyer is very useful. It might be expensive, but in the end, it will make a big difference. And I know Appsterdam does help with a lot of these kinds of things. So if you need more advice on how to find these kinds of things, or even actual advice, legal advice, I don't know if that's provided or not, but I know Judy and Mike know a lot more about that than I do. But that's one of the nice things about Appsterdam is it's kind of geared to help you deal with some of this stuff so you can do the important things. So however you get it. And I know for the past month I've been telling myself, in my head over and over again, man, I'm glad I have a good lawyer. And if only I had $1 for every time I thought that, I'd be able to pay him. So do those things. Those are universal no matter what you're doing. Now, there are some other things that are important to business that are maybe not 100% universal. They're not death and taxes universal, but they're mostly universal. These are things that you're going to need to do. They're more important, say, if you're a product company than if you're just a freelancer, but they still need to be done. And these are mostly kind of promotional kinds of things. So things like copywriting, marketing, PR, stuff like that. You still need that, even as a freelancer, maybe not in the same way you would need it if you're building a product, but you still need to somehow find business. However you do that, that defining how you're going to find business and how you're going to get people to pay you money, that's marketing/sales. So you still need to do that. But how you do it is very different if you're a freelancer or a product company. And why did I put copywriting first? Because I think to me, that's something that's tremendously important that a lot of people overlook very early on. You may think you're a good writer, but good copywriting is very difficult to do well. Or good copywriting there aren't very many good copywriters out there. So when you're going to put out a press release, or you're going to put some copy on your website, you can write it yourself. In fact, you probably should, because you need to kind of consolidate all that information in your brain and make sure you're getting everything out that you need to, but don't send it to other people until you've had a professional look over it. You don't have to get them to just write everything for you. You can just have them review and say, hey, you should take this out or move this over here, or what. But they might actually ask you, what's the most important thing you're trying to say, and distill the entire press release into 2 paragraphs. Writing is very difficult. Getting the point across in writing is very difficult, and unless you do it all the time, you're probably not very good at it. You might think you are, but you're probably not. So I highly recommend, if if you're going to do any kind of promotional stuff, anything that's in the written word that you're going to put out there to promote yourself or your business, have someone who knows what they're doing and does this on a regular basis actually look at it. And then marketing and PR, this is the kind of stuff you probably aren't going to outsource much, especially as a very small shop. You're going to do most of this yourself, but you still have to do them. You still have to think about it. So, in the case of marketing, it could be anything from coming to WWDC and networking with as many people as possible, or it could be something as simple as buying ads on Google AdWords. But whatever it is, you have to do it. Do as much of it as you want, but be careful. Don't fall into the trap of trying to do all these things and then neglecting the rest of the things that need to get done, because there's a whole lot you have to do as you run a business. So, make sure and it's the same thing with coding. Don't do it too much. Don't get caught up in it where you neglect everything else. I have that problem a lot. I'll start working on something, especially something like, copy for the website, or writing a press release or something like that. I'll get caught up in it and I'll spend way too much time doing it, and because I don't do it all the time. But when I do, I want to get it right, and so I sit there and slave over it for hours and hours, and then eventually send it to a copywriter, and they slice it up, send it back to me, and basically if I had just written down the thoughts, kind of stream of consciousness, and handed it off to them, I'd have been done in 30 minutes. But instead I spend 5 or 6 hours working on a single press release. So, you can do this stuff yourself. You're going to want to do most of it, especially early on, because it can get expensive to keep outsourcing things. But try not to do all of it yourself. Try to strategically plan money and resources to handle these kinds of things. Right, so this is what I got next. One of my favorite topics. Business communication. This is a very kind of sensitive topic in general, because I think the two most important words when I talk about communication in business are email sucks. Email is a terrible communication medium. It is, it's very, just like writing a press release or doing any kind of copywriting, email is very similar to writing copy for a website, except you can very quickly just fire things off to people, and tone is very difficult to get if you're not writing all the time. It's difficult to get emotions. Jokes, very bad idea. Don't put jokes in email unless you really know the person very, very well, because it might not come off as a joke, and emoticons aren't quite enough to really convey the emotion you're trying to convey when you're telling a joke. So email is very, very difficult to get right. And on top of that, especially if you're emailing with clients, maybe people who are executives in businesses. Say you're an agency and you're working with, a Fortune 1000, Fortune 500 company. You're dealing with maybe the, chief marketing officer, the chief whatever officer. I guarantee you that person gets 200 to 500 emails a day, all of which they need to respond to in some way, right? So they don't respond to all those. And so if your email doesn't make sense immediately, just on glance, and you don't get their attention immediately as soon as they glance at the email in their inbox, then there's a chance they might never read it, no matter how important it is. The marking an email important and the important flag, that doesn't work anymore. That's way overused. No one even looks at those. So email communication is really difficult. So what I try to do is I keep my emails very short. If it's something that is confirming a meeting or something like that, that doesn't take more than one or two sentences. If you do more than 2 sentences, you're doing that wrong. But if I really need to discuss something important, timeline, strategy stuff, anything that is more than, do you want to go grab lunch, then I'll send an email. But the email will be to schedule an actual phone call and talk to them personally. It's a lot easier to communicate, as I'm doing right now, speaking to you, than writing. I've been wanting to write blog posts about all this stuff I'm talking about, but it's really, really difficult to write it and get it right, especially with how little time I have to do that kind of stuff. There's a famous quote that's been attributed to numerous writers. I think Blaise Pascal is the one who everyone kind of officially ties this to, but some people said it's Mark Twain, and it does sound like him, but it's one of my favorite quotes about writing. And it was the very beginning, I believe it was Blaise Pascal, but it was at the very beginning of a letter. And he said, I apologize for the length of this letter. I didn't have the time to write a short one. And I think about that to myself every time I sit down to write an email. It'll take me 5 times as long to write a short, succinct, email that actually gets me results than it does to write, an 8-paragraph email that still has all the same information in it. So one nice little trick I like to do is I don't actually send things after I do this, but I don't know how many of you know that OS 10 has a service called Summarize. So many of you know about this service, but sometimes, just as a sanity check, I'll take something that I've written, especially if it feels too long, if it's more than 4 or 5 sentences, and I run it through the Summarize service and start shrinking it down and seeing what happens and seeing what words get taken out, right? And usually I'll just kind of take what the Summarize did and then go rewrite from that. Try to keep it under 5 sentences. In fact, I've actually started adding this. You can't see it. Yeah, you can see it. I'm adding this as a signature. So let me tell you the URL is 5.sentence.es. So 5 sentences is the website. And in my email, they actually give you a cut and paste for email signature. And it's a question, why is this email 5 sentences or less? And then the answer is the URL to the website. And since you can't see it, I'll read it to you. This is what if they click on the link, what they will see. Email takes too long to respond to, resulting in continuous inbox overflow for those who receive a lot of it. So our solution, treat all email responses like SMS text messages using a set number of letters per response. Counting letters is too difficult, so we count sentences, and we keep it at 5. Then there's actually there's 2 sentences, 3 sentences, 4 sentences, and 5 sentences. But it's a good way to sanity check yourself. If you're writing an email to someone, especially if it's an important email, count the sentences before you send it. Is it more than 5? Is it more than 3? Whatever your threshold is. And if it is, rewrite it. And I've even gone to the point to counting compound sentences as 2, because I want to keep it as simple as possible. So 5 sentences, in my case, if I have a comma and an and, or a comma and a but, I consider that 2 sentences. So communication is very difficult, because now you're a business owner, right? Now you're not talking to other developers, you're talking to clients, you're talking to stakeholders in the projects you're working on. And communication is tremendously important and can cause a lot of headache, as I have experienced numerous times. It can even sink relationships and projects. One wrong email that someone takes wrong that's completely well-intentioned and has all the information in there you need. They might not even read far enough, and they get mad, and then things escalate, and explaining yourself and getting out of the hole sometimes once the relationship is destroyed, is kind of impossible. So be very careful. Email sucks. Last one, or actually there's 2 more, but community. And you're here, so you probably kind of understand this a little bit, but I think community is tremendously important. It can be your lifeline. People in the community are very, especially in this community, are wonderful, very helpful. If you make big mistakes that could sink your business, but you have a lot of friends in the community, they might have work to help you out, right? They might be able to say, okay, I can get you on this project. I need some help anyways for another couple months, and I can pay you a little bit and get you back on your feet. Or just providing advice, or just sanity checking yourself when you're working on things, showing your apps, showing your projects, talking about how you approach clients. This community especially is tremendously open and tremendously helpful to each other. Even people who you would think are who are competitors, and you would think shouldn't be sharing so much information with each other. In the Coca community, they do, and it's wonderful. There are a lot of people who have been successful in this community that want to help others do the same, and it's been a massive help to me to go to conferences like WWDC or 360 IDEV is another wonderful one. There are multiple in this conference, but also working in co-working spaces, kind of like how this is this week. As you might know, there are dedicated spaces in many cities for doing this with other like-minded people. They might not all be iOS developers or Mac developers, but they're still entrepreneurs or freelancers in some way. And then other things like Cocoa Heads meetings, meetups, stuff like that. Go to those things. Meet the people in the community, because you'll be amazed at how useful you are to each other. And that's, personally for me, it's been probably one of the most important and rewarding things I've done is immerse myself in this community, because there are a lot of really awesome people here. And that's kind of why I didn't buy a ticket to WWDC this year, but I'm here because I couldn't imagine not being here around all my friends for at least 3 or 4 days. It's that important to me. So I just flew out to San Francisco anyway. All right, and last, I know I'm kind of, my goal was to keep this about half an hour, and I'm right at that, so I'm still going to go over a little more, because I figure there might be questions. So here's my last piece. And you can't really see that. Something that's also really important when you're running a business, and something that is very easy to neglect and gets neglected often, is your own personal health. Right? I said in the very beginning, it's kind of bookending, I guess, in personal ways, but your business is very personal when you create it, because, like I said, you have understanding what you really want to get out of it is the only way you're going to be able to build anything that you want to enjoy. On the flip side of that, understanding your body and how it works and what's good for you and what's not is going to help you build your business as well, because it will make you a happier and more productive person. As an example, I made 3 major changes over the past 8 months or so in my own health. I changed my diet, I changed my sleeping habits, and I changed my exercise habits. I didn't do them all at the same time. I staggered them so I could kind of measure the benefits of each. I'm still an engineer. The difference is night and day. I know some of you know me, some of you saw me last year, and in December when I started, I started the diet part, I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now, and I feel much better. But it's not just the weight, and it's not just, the fact that I'm going to be able to live a little longer now. It's not just that. I'm also much more productive in my daily work. Unfortunately, I don't have good empirical evidence to prove this, but I definitely have my own internal kind of personal evaluation clock going all the time. Since I have improved my sleeping habits, improved my eating habits, and improved my exercise habits, not only am I happier and get to spend more time with my family, the reason I can spend more time with my family is, and quality time because I'm happy, is I'm actually a whole lot more productive than I used to be. So I was pretty sleep deprived for a while, talking 4 hours of sleep every night for, working 12 to 16, 18 hours every day, and maybe sleeping 4 hours a night for 6 months will destroy you. I didn't realize that I'd become, for lack of a better word, a complete asshole. I wasn't friendly, and I know Mike talks about this sometimes as well. I wasn't friendly. I felt like I was doing good work, but I was being told that I wasn't, which made me even more mad. As I stepped back to really look at it, it was true. I was not producing at the level that I should have been producing, and it was taking me longer to get things done than it should have. So I actually was kind of talking to my doctor about it, and he looked at me and he said, "You're sleep deprived." I was like, "No, that's not. I only need 4 hours of sleep. That's how I got through college." He was like, "No, you're sleep deprived." And he's like, "Try to get 8 hours of sleep every night for the next 2 weeks and see what happens." And sure enough, I completely changed my outlook on life, actually trying to get enough sleep. I did a little experimentation to find out where my line is. There's been a ton of research done on productivity and sleep and all those kinds of things. You can do a bunch of searching on the internet to find this stuff. But kind of the general baseline, the reason 8 hours is the number is that's kind of the general baseline for the population. There are freaks of nature who actually really only need 4 hours of sleep, because they go into REM sleep immediately, and they get all that replenishing sleep very quickly. There's a famous cardiac surgeon, Dr. Michael DeBakey, who was famously like this. He could produce, and he's a world-class surgeon. He has hospitals and medical schools named after him. I think he was one of the pioneers of open heart surgery or something like that. And he was notorious for only getting 4 hours of sleep every night and being completely refreshed and able to do very delicate, difficult surgery, and especially back in the 50s and 60s, in a time when it was much more dangerous to the person having the surgery. It's still dangerous, but it was a lot more dangerous 20, 30 years ago. And he was very successful that way. But he's a freak of nature. He's the LeBron James of sleeping, right? You're never going to play basketball like LeBron James, and most likely you're not going to be as productive as Dr. DeBakey was sleeping 4 hours a night. Turns out that's the case, especially for me. So I found my number is about 7. And so why is this important? Like, what was the difference for me? Now, not only do I have higher quality work, it's back to my standards. I can actually notice that it's back to my standards because I'm clear-headed. And on top of that, I get about the same amount of work done that I used to when I was really grinding on 10, 12 hours of days of coding, actually coding 10 to 12 hours a day. I'm down to 6 now, and I get the same amount of work done. And I get to spend those other 4 to 6 hours of workday actually building my business. And then it also allows me to spend a good 2 to 3 hours every day with my son, which is pretty important to me too. And on top of that, when I am spending time with my family, I'm also happier and not just a complete asshole like I used to be. So sleep is really important. Now, I think there's obviously an effect with diet and exercise as well that help this. But kind of fixing those things about yourself, whether it's just one or whether it's all three, will make a massive difference in your ability to not only just, even if you're just a developer, even if you're a developer working for another company and you're not trying to build a business or trying to be a freelancer, this stuff still will work and is still important. So think about that, think about your health. And I know it's kind of been a bit of a meme in our community lately, in the Cocoa community. A lot of, maybe it's because we're getting older, I don't know. In general, but there are a lot of people out there doing things like standing desks, treadmill desks. Jeff and Marge, Dan Pasco, both of them are doing treadmill desks and had a wonderful kind of result from doing that. Others are doing stand-up desks, having great results. Personally, I don't do the stand-up or treadmill desk thing. I just kind of make sure I get up every half an hour. I actually have an alarm that pops up every half hour, reminding myself to stop coding and get up, and I do it. And then I also run in the mornings and get enough sleep, and that's enough for me. So that's really all I have. That's basically some of what I think are the most important things I've learned over the past few years doing this, and the things that have these conclusions that I've reached are through multiple mistakes that I've made over the past 3 years. I'm happy to talk about what those are. Individually, I didn't want to kind of drone on about all of that, standing up here, and I wanted to make sure I, kept it short and didn't put too many things in there, especially since you can't really see it. So if you have any questions for some of the E-Myth book is one that I mentioned, 5 Sentences website, things like that, I'll gladly kind of give those to you. I'll be sitting over here for a while. And I guess that's it. So thanks a lot for coming, and hopefully it was really useful.